Good evening. At this time, I'll call to order the meeting of the whole for Tuesday, December 27, 2022. Let the record show that all aldermen are present. First up, we've got finance and bills. Mr. Mayor? Any comments on that? We've all received the finance and bills. Any particular comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion. Can I get a second? Seconded by Alderman Anastasia. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next is PL 127-22 by Mayor Elio to confirm the mayoral appointment of Matthew Swenson as acting city court judge. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Yes, we have in our presence tonight, we have the Honorable Matthew Swenson, who is currently city court judge in Salamanca, and I would like to appoint him as the acting city court judge for the city of Lillian Court. So he's here to answer questions if anyone has any.
Okay. Do any members of the county council have any questions? Yes, Alderman Bass.
I take it this is for the part-time to fill in for Mr. DeServo when he's out or
Yes,
not available?
yes, yes. Olean City Court has one full-time judge and one acting judge. Judge Gabler, who has been in the capacity of acting city court judge for the past several years, has aged out, and so we need to appoint another acting judge who will serve when Judge DeServo is not available.
Any other comments or questions? You got all dressed up. Got a suit on here. Nothing? I guess that's easy then. So you need a motion from us then, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Alderman Witt made the motion, seconded by Alderman McCall. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There's still time to change our minds though, right? Resolutions? All right. All right, and welcome and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Next, we've got PL 128-22 by Mayor Elio, that the Common Council hereby designates its intention to serve as lead agency for the proposed streetscape and gateway improvements to South Union Street between West State and Franchot Boulevard. Mr. Mayor?
This is another step forward in starting to get that project ready. So we have to do the seeker on it. We have to make ourselves the lead agency and to complete so that we can another step in moving the project forward.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a sponsor.
I'll sponsor.
Sponsor motion is made by Alderman Gonzalez, second by Alderman Witt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and is referred to tonight for resolution. Okay, at this moment, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second? Second by Alderman Anastasia. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned. At this time, I will go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the Common Council for Tuesday, December 27th, 2022. Will the clerk please call the attendance roll?
Alderman Witt.
Here.
Alderman Panis.
Here?
Alderman Gonzalez.
Here.
Alderwoman McCall.
Here.
Alderman Robinson.
Here.
Alderman Anastasia.
Here.
And President Crawford.
Here, please rise for the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we welcome you today, asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of this community. In your name, we pray.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading, correcting, and approval of the minutes of the previous regular meeting.
The regular meeting of the Olean Common Council was held on Tuesday, December 13, 2022 at 6:25 p.m. Present were Alderman Crawford, Witt, Panis, Gonzalez, McCall, Robinson, and Anastasia. None were absent.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Committee reports and unfinished council business.
None.
Communications from the mayor.
Thank you, John. I have two certificates of recognition. The first one is for Linda Witt, with a sincere appreciation for service on the Olean Common Council as Alderman Ward 1 for 3 terms from 2017 until 2022. Thank you for your dedicated commitment to the residents of the city of Olean, as signed by Council President John Crawford and myself. So Linda, congratulations. Thank you for your service. And the second one here is for Paul Gonzalez, with sincere appreciation for service on the Common Council as Alderman Award 3 for 5 terms from 2013 until 2022. Thank you for your dedication and commitment to the residents of the city of Olean, and as signed by Council President John Crawford and myself. Thank you. And next, I have a letter that was sent to us from Dylan Spencer, who is on employment in Germany. And this letter was sent here, and he would like it read at the council meeting. And I don't know, John, if you want to make any comments for that, but if not, we'll have Frank. Frank, would you read the letter, please?
The following letter was received by Mayor Elio. It is dated December 17th of this year. I am addressing this letter to the Common Council to be read during the next meeting on 27 December 2022. I am making this request to share my opinion as a citizen of the city of Olean on my own behalf and not on behalf of either the City of Olean Police Department or the New York Army National Guard. I was made aware of Alderman Robinson's statement during the 13 December 2022 Common Council meeting regarding his views on military service members within the Olean Police Department. Alderman Robinson stated, quote, "We have some that are in the military that would rather go and spend their time on, their reserve time than be here and deal with some of the things they have to deal with here." I consider Alderman Robinson's statement during the December 13th meeting to be a degradation of those who have been called upon to serve. I've been a member of the National Guard since March 2016, 4 years prior to becoming a police officer with the city of Olean. The department hired me with a full understanding of my military obligations and has been more than supportive. On August 17, 2022, Chief Richardson was awarded the, quote, Patriot Award, unquote, by the Department of Defense under their Employer Support of Guard and Reserve program. I am currently forward deployed in support of USAREUR-AF, Operation European Assure, Deter, and Reinforce, which I was ordered to participate in as a direct response to the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. My duty and service to my country during this tumultuous period is one which I consider to be an honor. However, my being deployed has also been extremely stressful for my family and me. My wife is currently carrying our first child. Without my physical presence to assist her in the daily challenges that pregnancy presents, our separation, due to my duties, has carried its own set of challenges, both emotional and mental. I would be remiss to fail to mention that I expect Alderman Robinson, being a former member of the Armed Forces of the United States, to understand the stresses and challenges that a family experiences with one of their own is deployed. His comments during the December 13th meeting disappoint my expectations. At no point did Alderman Robinson contact me prior to making this statement regarding his opinion on my alleged preference of military service over employment with the Olean Police Department. 2 Olean police officers are indeed currently forward deployed. As one of those 2, I consider Alderman Robinson's comments insinuating that military members have a choice to deploy as a welcome respite from the duties of service to the city of Olean, inflammatory and contrary to a culture of support that should be in place for reserve component service members. I believe it is imperative that our elected officials support all members of our municipal staff and strive to achieve an environment that is collaborative. I humbly urge all elected officials who have the privilege to be present with their loved ones this holiday season to remember that there are those who do not have this luxury. I'd like to thank the mayor and the common council of the city of Olean, as well as any residents of the city present during this reading for their time. I wish you all a safe holiday season. Very respectfully signed, Dylan Hensel.
Is that it, Mr. Mayor? Okay, thank you. Next up, we've got miscellaneous communications.
None.
City official reports,
None.
proposed legislation and referrals.
PL number 127-22 by Mayor Elliott, referred to Committee of the Whole Tuesday, December 27th, 2022 by Council President. PL number 128-22 by Mayor Elliott, referred to Committee of the Whole Tuesday, December 27th, 2022 by Council President.
Okay. At this time, I will ask any of the aldermen if they have a general statement they'd like to make at this time.
I'd just like to wish Alderman Gonzalez and Alderman Witt well. Thank them for their service also. And I hope Paul trained his successor to roll his eyes and keep us amused while he's gone.
Just to you.
Yeah, thank you to both of you. All right, at this time, would the clerk please read Alderman McCall?
So close. I too want to say I've learned a lot from both of you, so I truly appreciate your time and your service, and look forward to the institutional memory that gets lost when people with this amount of time leave any board is significant. So I appreciate your service. And I just had one other thing, because along with that letter, that same day or the next day, there was a letter from Jason Clemens who had asked to have it read. I didn't know if we were going to read that one also.
Jason Clemens is here.
Jason, oh, hi Jason, I did see you come in. Well, good, then you can read it yourself. Perfect. Thanks.
Okay.
John, Mayor Nixon.
Yeah, please, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. On the agenda tonight is a vote again for my disapproval of the local law for Civilian Review Board. I've been accused of a lot of things here, and I just want everyone to know that as I received one email today that said I should listen to the people of Olean. That I did. When that was passed by the Common Council, I had, at that particular time, I had no intentions of disapproving it. Okay. The next day, and even that night, I took a couple of phone calls. The next day, I took phone calls. I saw people, and they asked me to, and there was to veto that legislation. It wasn't needed at Olean. So I followed the procedure there was for the local law. According to New York State, I had 30 days to disapprove that piece of legislation. So I took comments in that time from many, many people in the city of Olean. The night of the public hearing, I believe there was maybe 14 to 16 people here that, and several of them gave comment. Okay? But, you know, when I took an oath, I took my oath for the city of Olean here. And in that oath, it said I would represent all the people of the city of Olean. So nowhere in that oath did it said you're only to listen to the ones who come to a meeting and give comment. So I did my due diligence. I listened to the people, and there was probably of the ones that were here that gave comment in favor of the my disapproval of the law, then there was even more people that approached me and said they were happy that I did that. So I did what a lot of you aldermen have said. You listen to your constituents, and that's why I disapproved the law. And now we're at this point here where it's up to the Common Council to override if they wish, or to not override that disapproval. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would the clerk please read the public comment statement?
The public comment portion of the Common Council regular meeting is established to provide members of the community with the opportunity to publicly state their views, voice their concerns, or to provide input pertaining to any issue affecting city government. Additionally, the mayor, common council members, and city department heads encourage any person with questions to contact them at their offices.
Okay. At this time, I would invite any members of the public to approach the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
No time to take off my jacket, I guess. Good evening. Pabst Genesis 309 North 5th Street. Forgive me if I'm a little slow and my volume is a little low, but some people in this room might be happy that my volume is lower than usual tonight, but I slipped and fell on the ice a week and a half ago, and I'm still in incredible pain. Please deal with me. When the topic of the Police Civilian Review Board came before the council, I urged that it not be approved because I felt that it was toothless, and I felt that it would have no real effect other than to be a handy tool to cover up corruption and abuse within the Olean Police Department leadership. Well, now Mayor Ailio has proved me wrong beyond measure. He's decided that he is no longer going to pretend that there is any accountability in the Olean Police Department. A former police officer joined his comrades behind the big blue wall of silence to shield the few wrongdoers that we have on our police force out of some, I don't know whether it's misguided loyalty or something more nefarious. I'd like to think it's misguided loyalty. So now the police know that there will be nobody looking over their shoulder, nobody holding any of them to account, whether it is harassing victims of hate crimes when they try to protect their home with a fence, or whether it's covering up the misdeeds of elected officials within this city when they are caught openly and admittedly breaking the law on YouTube. Mayor Ailio has once again said that there is no accountability, there should be no accountability, and he's no longer even going to pretend that Chief Richardson and the leadership of the Olean Police Department are subject to any kind of law. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for proving my few remaining shreds of faith in the human condition and proving me wrong in holding them. And showing us once again that for minorities, whether they are ethnic, religious, or orientation-based minorities, have no protection within this city, and there can be no justice in the city of Olean. When I was at St. Bonaventure, there was a student who was thrown through a plate glass window at what was then Olean's only, and as far as I know, through history, still only gay bar, because he said the wrong thing to a trucker who breezed inside. Not many people are aware of that because it was hushed up pretty quickly, but we in the LGBT, very closeted students at Bonaventure at the time knew it meant stay out of Olean. We got the message loud and clear, and through his veto, Mayor Alio has just thrown every minority citizen of this city through a virtual plate glass window. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Tim Sherlock, here in Olean, South 18th Street. When I came last time, I spoke about wanting this to be passed, regardless of there being no teeth or whatnot, that it was a stepping stone, you know, a step in the right direction. I've listened to both sides, arguments for and against. The only argument I've heard against originally was it was going to burden the taxpayers, which, let's be honest, was a fallacy, because we looked at very skewed data in presenting that. I have not heard at any of these meetings from the police department or the mayor, when asked, the rationale for not wanting it. I'm not going to assume that our police department is bad, because I happen to know many of them and they're very good. But I also would not assume that they're all good. There's no such thing as perfect. Even among many of you, there's no such thing as perfect, or myself. We all get called to question in our life, whether we like it or not. It's how we answer that calling that will determine our character. We cannot brush things under the rug and hope that we don't see them. I will tell you, as a father of a 10-year-old, they like to push everything under the bed and say, my room is clean. But unless I pick up that bed sheet, I didn't know. We have an opportunity here to take a step forward, to look at the actions. If no wrongdoing ever happened, it would be a very boring board to have. But let's be honest, there is no such thing as no wrongdoing ever happening. And we owe it to our citizens, our taxpayers, to be able to ask those questions and have credible answers. And I can tell you tonight, not once have we been given an answer by the mayor as to anything that deals with conduct or the nature of the city. His comment is always, no comment. Until he reads or says something that's in favor of him. That's very telling. You have an opportunity tonight to carry through this law, which you already voted on once. To rescind your vote would be very telling of your character. And I do not find it questionable at all, though he would like to claim differently, that the mayor did not have this planned. It seems very strategic and very apropos to our mayor. The one thing we do have a problem with in this city is the powers that be. And we have an opportunity to change that. Even if it is a baby step, it is still a step. And once you get a stone moving, it is hard to stop that stone. That's called progress. I hope you think about that when you vote tonight.
Okay, anyone else?
Hello everyone, I am Max Garvin, a resident of East Olean for 19 years. I wanted to briefly express my outrage concerning the Police Citizen Review Board becoming vetoed as of late. I do not comprehend how creating positive communication between the citizens of Olean and the police department is to be a negative for our city. Allowing citizens a venue to express their problems in different situations could lead them to a greater chance of working through them rather than ignoring them. Being the most powerful armed body of the city simply does not mean you are perfect, and the citizens of Olean deserve increased transparency if they're having real issues. It is hard for me to believe that the decision of one rather than a unanimous and bipartisan decision of many is more beneficial to the city of Olean. Decisions about Olean should represent what the masses want. The Citizen Review Board is in Olean's best interest.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Mike Marsfelder. I'm a lifelong resident of the city, except for the 3 years I was in the Army, and I currently reside in Ward 1 in Alderman Witt's ward. I guess I'm confused by a few things, especially after watching the last council meeting. It was stated that one of the objectives of the Civilian Review Board is to foster communication between the police and the public. I'm assuming that goal of this communication is meant to improve your police department. However, it was claimed that one of the proponents of this fostering of communication had notes from way back about having information about there being bad culture and management issues within the police department. I'm curious if these issues were ever addressed with the mayor or the chief of police in an effort to actually improve the department before these issues were addressed publicly in a council meeting where it could be deemed politically advantageous. I don't know when the Olean Police Department became the bad guys. I really don't. Aldermen have stated in public meetings that if the police don't like the Civilian Review Board, they can move to another state. I believe Florida was mentioned. It's also been stated that the only way for your officers to make more money is to go to the county or the state. It was also publicly stated that your officers shouldn't make as much money as the county or the state officers. What on earth is this based on? Call volume? Qualifications? Is this really the way that the council feels is the best way to improve your department? Is this the best way to recruit new officers to come to this department? Or, just as importantly, the best way to retain the officers that the department already has? Regarding tonight's vote, I feel that some members of the community want this board. I do. But I also believe that the majority of the public does not feel that the city needs a Civilian Review Board. And I think some of you aldermen know this. I'm curious how many of you have reached out to the chief or the mayor to see how many complaints are made against our officers, and more importantly, how many are substantiated. I know that you were all offered publicly in a council meeting to watch body cam footage of an officer being exonerated from an allegation made against him. The city pays the mayor and the chief of police good money to do their jobs. By instituting this board, you send a clear message to them that you don't trust them to do the right thing. I'm not asking you to vote with your heart tonight, as you were for the first vote. I'm asking you to remove a motion from your decision and do the right thing for your city. Please vote against this board tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Daniel Gayton, 794 North Union Street. Didn't think I'd have to be back here about this topic again. Thought we were over this, but here I am. So, I don't know. I can help answer some of your questions coming from the police department. The Citizens Review Board was never meant to be a us versus them situation. You guys made it an us versus them situation. That's never what it was meant to be. That's never how it was laid out. Even the letter that was read tonight was more of an us versus them situation. Nobody up here, nobody that wanted the Citizens Review Board ever claimed that it was a citizens versus police situation. It was a way to open up communication. I can tell you that coming from a minority community, the reason that you don't have complaints is because we don't trust you. It's that simple. And when I say minority community, I can tell you, you know, people look at skin color and call it minority. I'm talking to LGBT community don't trust you either. I work with the mental health and disabilities. They don't trust you either. This is why you don't have complaints. This is why you don't have anything working, because they don't trust you. It's that simple. This isn't a hard thing to figure out. You have a Citizens Review Board with absolutely no power. So what is the problem? So Alderman Robinson read a couple statements in the last meeting. I've been watching this thing from afar. I haven't been here, just been watching. And all of a sudden he gets attacked. Makes it an us versus them thing, right? Not exactly what he was trying to lay out. What you guys from council should have took out of that meeting, because what I took out of that meeting after I watched it was, one, why are we at the second time that anonymous comments are allowed to be overridden by people who have to stand up here and tell you where we live? Maybe you guys should open up a little investigation on that. Maybe it's the we and the thee. Maybe there's a couple people that may be big donors or something like that that are making these phone calls and making these calls. So what you should be asking yourself is who's really running this city? Is it you or is it them? That should be the question. And when somebody brings up some concerns about a certain department within the city, them concerns should be taken serious. And maybe somebody should look into them. Our fellow's right. Maybe somebody should look into that. Maybe somebody should figure out whether or not the leadership within the city that we pay taxes in is adequate for the residents of the city. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But to sit here and point fingers at each other and not get down to the nitty-gritty of what's really going on is a problem. So instead of attacking people, why don't we figure out what the real problem is? This Citizens Review Board is needed. It's time for you guys to get with the times and move forward. You're operating as if this thing was 1977, and that's not the way that we're operating around here anymore. It's not the way that we should be operating around here anymore. Times are changing. And you either are going to change with them, or you're going to continually watch the population of this city decrease as it has over the past years and years and years. Listen, we haven't had a population increase in years. And it has not, and maybe it has a little bit to do with jobs, but it has a lot to do with culture. And if you don't believe that, go back to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee survey results that came out that still have yet to have anything to do with, because the Diversity and Inclusion Board was dissolved, along with the Police Reform Committee that was anonymous comments again came from that pretty much stalled the progress in there. It's amazing how these anonymous comments just keep coming in. It amazes the hell out of me. And, but, you know, they keep coming. So you gotta ask yourself, where are they coming from, right? As a leader, you gotta ask yourself, you gotta stop and say, where are these coming from? Who's really running this city? If these anonymous comments and these anonymous things keep coming in, is it a select few people that are really running the city? You guys, as a common council, should look into that. You have the power to look into that and say, show me who wrote it. Show me what they said. If they can't put it in writing, it never happened. Isn't that the common rule? If it's not in writing, it never happened, right? So here we are again. You guys voted this thing in once, right? Now, if you don't vote it in again, what are you telling the citizens of this community? Not only people look at the citizens here as minority citizens as if it's just skin color. You're telling the poor people of this community you don't give a damn about it. You're telling them the people with developmental disabilities in this community you don't give a damn. You're telling the people with mental health you don't give a damn. You're telling the people that are in the LGBT community you don't give a damn. You're telling the minorities of skin color that you don't care. My cousin sitting here, Jason Clemens, still somebody wrote nigger on his car. Still don't know who that is. Is that by accident? Is that by accident? I had another cousin, whether it was justified or unjustified, that got shot at. We still don't know what the hell happened with that. By an officer. Couldn't even get the information. Even when we called to get the information, it all pointed back to the city that was holding it up. But yet the city pointed fingers somewhere else. So this is why these things are needed. We can't sit here and act like the city of Olean is perfect and these things aren't needed and the questions aren't answered, because that's nonsense. And you're fooling yourself if you're sitting there thinking that these things aren't needed in your community. You're an absolute fool, and you shouldn't be sitting in the chair that you're sitting. That's my take. If you vote no on this, Panish, you help write this. There's no way in hell you can vote no on this. Gonzalez, you push this, right? Alderman Robinson, you help.
5 minutes, sir.
Alderman Anastasia, you're here. You know, you're in my district. I'm pretty sure you're not gonna vote no. And Alderman Crawford, you know what the right thing to do is. You know what you gotta do. So there it is. It's a done deal, right? It should be. It should be literally that cut and dry and simple.
That's your time, Mr. Gaten.
I pay a lot of money, I can keep, go extra, a couple minutes, pay a lot of taxes around here.
Anyone else?
Jason Clemens, South Second Street, Olean, New York. I guess I'll take this opportunity to read my letter that I wrote to the mayor. I wish it was read by one of the council members so that I could have my other statement. Dear Mayor Elliott, technology. I'm writing to express my concerns on your recent veto of the Civilian Review Board legislation that was voted unanimously in a recent Common Council meeting. At the particular meeting, you had every opportunity to speak your mind just like every other council member. You chose not to. You waited till the last moment to make a statement behind closed doors as not to have to deal with any opposition. This, in my opinion, is exactly why we need transparency, not only in policing of the city, but also our politics. I 100% support our officers in uniform and regularly have great conversations with some of them when not on duty. I've had several since the start of this conversation about a review board. This conversation is not a us against them, so I'm reiterating the same exact thing that a couple of citizens have already said. This conversation is not us against them dialogue, it's more of how can we together help with the fairness in policing. That is exactly what transparency is about. It's about open dialogue so no one person feels like they've been unfairly treated by a person in power. Being a homeowner and a business owner in the city, I expect fairness. As a black man in this city and a victim of chronic racist acts my whole life, I can honestly say that that expectation of fairness is just not the same. I'm sure being in your position as mayor and former police officer in the city that you do not want to see, that you do not feel and see the issue here. That is why for the first time in my adult life, I spoke my mind at a common council meeting and read aloud for the same transparency and fairness the CRB is aiming to achieve. As long as you hold the position of mayor, I am on your side. I'm hoping that you are on mine. Feel free to respond and reach out to me so my words are not misunderstood. And I will give credit to Mr. Elio, Mayor Elio. He responded in kind, and I had a meeting with him this morning. It was a good meeting. We spent about 45 minutes or so speaking on just this issue. And I basically just said what my concerns were, not only as a citizen, but as a business owner and as a minority member of this city. I think it's very important that we get rid of this misconception of, Mike, it's me against you, because I'm not against you. I'm not against any officer in this town, as long as they're on my side as well. You know, I didn't ask for any special treatment when it came to an arrest of somebody that was supposed to be arrested in my situation. Never did I ask and say, hey, do this favor for me and arrest him. No, I said he had a crime. There was a crime committed. How come nothing's been done? Where are we moving forward? That's why I think that the Citizens Review Board has to be, just so that it brings to light some of these things so that we can say, why are we dealing with this chronic situation? Why are we dealing with the same issues that I dealt with in grade school? It makes no sense to me that we still have to deal with this. But again, anonymous people will say, you know what, Mayor, I support you. We don't need a civilian review board. But guess what? They have their choice to stand up here and say the same thing and be open and honest just like I am. I never wanted to be into politics. That's why I got into hairdressing. I deal with people that are on the far left and on the far right. You know what? And I'm anti-politic. But I have to stand up here and fight for my rights as a citizen, and still none of you guys know my voting history. What does that say? It says that I can be fair and impartial, and I think that's exactly what a civilian review board does. And Mayor said this morning, he goes, I think it should be called a civilian advisory board. Call it whatever you want. Call it whatever you want. It's about transparency, and that's all that it's about. It's about making sure that not that we saying, hey, I'm going to put this legislation in order to hold my officers accountable for their actions. They should be accountable for their actions all the time anyways. What we're asking for is fairness and saying, if there are things that are going on behind closed doors, let's expose it. I have no problem being a snitch in my community if it helps my community. Told the mayor this morning, I've lived on 2nd Street for 25 years. I've never had my house vandalized. I've never had a package stolen from my street, and I live in the hood. It's what we call the hood. You know why? It's because of my reputation. And it's because I have a few officers that say, you know what? I do go down your street. I do police it. And I thank them every single time. Told the mayor also this morning, I've had drug activity on my street, and officers came to me and said, hey, can we use your, thank you, can we use your driveway to do a stakeout? I said, absolutely. If it's going to help rid crime from my street, absolutely. So I'm not against you. I'm not against any policing, as long as it's done fairly and openly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Leo Walters Tahara. For matters of personal safety, I'll give you my address privately, as I was assaulted within the past month for my orientation while walking my dog in my own neighborhood. I'm standing before you today to talk about the recent veto of the Civilian Review Board for the City Police. You claim it was a mistake, which is unequivocally false, according to data from the top down in our country, starting with the Department of Justice. And it's a complete lie based upon your own words previously stated before. It's beyond infuriating that you continue to pander to an unidentified and ambiguous silent majority, and you have obvious skin in this game as a former police department. And moreover, you have a total disregard for minority community members who have been assaulted and victims of crime in your community, and that's never been rectified. Moreover, what is there to lose for the city of Olean by guaranteeing the finest in policing, encompassing aspects of transparency and accountability via a board, especially if the police have nothing to hide? If there's nothing to hide, then that's great. We're not using unnecessary resources to talk about these things. Furthermore, I have a significant amount of problem with politicians that have a complete lack of personal integrity, as you've previously gone on the record saying that this was a good idea for our community. And now, shortly after that law was passed, in this mysterious window right before a holiday, where the only public comment is between two holidays where most people are out of town, now we're vetoing this law. The CRB, which you now claim to be a mistake, was unanimously passed by a bipartisan council. I've been to a lot of these meetings, and I can think of not that many things that were unanimously passed that were contested. This was unanimously passed by a bipartisan council. Are we supposed to compromise? Are we supposed to be democratic? Or are we just supposed to let things happen behind closed doors on our tax dollars? This isn't a democracy. That's blatant politicking and playing games with the safety of vulnerable residents within the Olean city limits. If you truly care about building unity in Olean, a police review board is a fitting treatment, as it is statistically proven to enhance relations between community members and police officers. I firmly believe that the city of Olean has nothing to lose and everything to gain by creating a civilian review board. The fact that this law was bipartisan, written, and unanimously voted on shows that this isn't a political issue, but rather a personal one. I strongly urge you, Mayor, and all of you committee members, to think about these things when we talk about a civilian review board going forward. And I encourage you to not just think about the people who look, act, dress, and believe like yourself, but perhaps those who, by virtue of their own state in life, might not have access to the resources that you have. The research is there. The evidence is there. And your citizens are standing up, not being silent. We're a very loud group of people that are standing up and saying, hi, over here, something's on fire. Can we put it out? Instead, it's like, maybe not. That's not going to grow our community. That's not going to make us into the Olean that we can be. It's going to fall short. And I think this town is too great for us to let it fall. We have a beautiful community full of diverse and passionate individuals. We live in an area full of resources, and as much as I never wanted to come back to rural Western New York, here I am, and I like it, and I'd like to stay and be able to walk my dog without being called a fag. I think that'd be something that we should work towards. That's all I have to say, but in light of the fact that this was snuck in under the last minute on in the holiday when people can't come, I have a list of 30 citizens who are willing to provide their name and address in support of a bipartisan Police Review Board, and I'm happy to pass them out. I believe I have 8 copies, so they're there for you. You might want to check in with the people in your constituencies because there is support for this. We can be better, but we have to do it together, and the games have to stop.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Christine Sherlock, Genesee Street, Ward 1. This is my first time, so hopefully I can keep it within the 5 minutes. I generally don't speak in public, especially given where I work. So I just want to express first that everything I say here after are my words and my words alone. I do not represent the city nor my union. I'm here to basically give a couple of my 2 cents on a couple different things tonight. First being the Civilian Review Board. I'm not here in an attempt to change anyone's mind. At this point, it's pretty futile to do so. I'm not even here to speak out against the idea of what the CRB is supposed to be, but to speak against the way in which it's being executed. To me, the CRB is meant to be a tool for both the community and the police, a way in which residents are able to voice a complaint if they aren't comfortable with the multiple options they already have. To have their complaint heard, reviewed, and investigated among the proper channels, a way to work to and establish a resolution as a team. But this has become anything but a compromising joint effort. The idea of the CRB has been tarnished repeatedly by personal agendas and selfish goals, with statements being made over the course of this legislation that are at best partial truths, and that are indicative of dislike and discontent with the police on a personal level. Statements that are rarely, if ever, questioned, which have taken this proposed board from a really useful tool for the community and turning it into something reminiscent of the Salem witch trials with absolutely no questioning of anything that's said. It has gone so far as, on different occasions, in light of the review board, there has been a demand to see body cam footage on any complaints that have been voiced, only for it to be stated that reviewing such video is a complete waste of taxpayers' money when those complaints did not fit the agenda and were proven to be fake or unfounded. I'm really not sure how much more transparent you can get on the day-to-day policing other than watching in real time what's happening with the body cams, which they have on all the time. I've watched from a different viewpoint than most, as things have changed dramatically for the police department, more so over the past year. These people have been working with bare minimum staffing for months and over the year and summer. Between injuries, retirements, and transfers, and 2 deployments, which I was going to speak on, but I think Dylan Ensel spoke really well on that, so I don't really have much to add to it. We've lost people to other agencies, and we will be losing more over the next 2 months. Two or three of which are 3 of our most hardworking, most liked people. For pay and benefits, I would be lying if I said those weren't contributing factors. However, at the last meeting, to say that the actions of this council has nothing to do with it, quite honestly, is absurd in my opinion. Imagine having a job that is overseen by a board of directors that are consistently calling you a liar, telling you you're bad at your job, you're corrupt, and you're hiding things maliciously, that you weren't worth as much money as your counterpart that is doing half the work that you are. Would you be happy there? Would your morale be very high? In the last meeting, it was stated the OPD should not get the same pay as the county. I'm curious as to why that is. If both agencies are receiving a relatively equal amount of calls for service, how's OPD any different? Especially since the majority of the calls within the city of Olean that the county gets are actually dispatched directly to us. So that cuts their numbers very, very far down. If you're in the city and call 911 for a police emergency, this county is certainly not the ones that show up. These people, the ones who are consistently being put down and told they aren't worth it, are the ones answering the call. You don't have to like these people on a personal level, nor do they have to like you. But they're going to answer a call if you're the one making the call, every single time. It was mentioned previously also how the position for chief of police was handled when the previous chief retired. I'd be very interested to know who the someone is that applied for the position from outside the city. Given that the examined position were specifically internal as promotional, it was not canvassed out. It would not have been unless not a single applicant submitted interest from within. There were more than one person who was qualified for the position, one of whom was even interviewed prior to the current chief being appointed. Regardless, I'm unsure as to why that subject was even brought up. considering it was within the CRB, and that is really inconsequential to the legislation. There was also an issue mentioned last meeting that having the CRB in place would have assisted in an incident where a pedestrian was struck by a police vehicle. This brought into question a policy regarding drug testing when involved in an accident while on duty. I believe it was even inferred that a policy was generated because of this specific incident, which is false. There is, however, and has been, a designated section of the police contract for at least the last 10 to 15 years. So it's not something that actually occurred because of that. It's always been there. Can I finish or just real quick? Okay.
Please, sir.
It's literally two sentences, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
No matter what these people are going through, what these people go through, no matter what they're accused of, they're still going to answer your calls because that's what they do. If you think that they like all the people that they go to across at Lincoln Park, that they're pulling out of the parks and dealing with on a daily basis, getting in on and off the meth buses, or the same people being Narcaned every single day, or anything like that that they're doing, then you're honestly out of your minds. But they're answering those calls. They don't care who you are, what you look like. If they get a call for service and they're assigned to it, they are going. Are you gonna like what they have to say? Not all the time. They're human. And they're not against having an open space for their people to be able to talk to them as well. But it needs to be handled in a much better way.
Thank you.
Gary Harvey, 408 East State Street. So first I would like to thank the picking and choosing of what gets read to the council when it's requested, so I'm glad that I sent it to all the aldermen. Apparently the decision whether or not it was going to be read was up to you, Mr. Crawford, and apparently that did not happen, so appreciate the picking and choosing. So I want to address a couple things that have been said. Number one, about the answering the calls. I don't know if anyone else has ever sat in an emergency room, waiting room, when a police officer brings an individual in under a state mandated 941, where they're required to stay until the medical staff essentially signs off and takes the exchange. But I guarantee that they don't care about everybody, unfortunately, because the attitude is, let me just dump and jump, oftentimes. In reference to the statement or the question as to, has anyone ever asked Chief Richardson? I have on more than one occasion watched him turn around and tell somebody, nope, and walk away from him when they were asked to speak with him. So that in itself causes issues. We also have a mayor that publicly went on record and stated that he does not follow the city policies, but handles things as he sees fit. That was prior to him being challenged with the Equity and Inclusion Committee before he threw a temper tantrum and dissolved said committee. So here we have a circumstance and a situation where we can rattle off as many statistics as we want to, but clearly statistics don't matter. What matters is whatever political games that we're trying to play. And it's unfortunate that individuals are willing to stand, whether for or against, whatever the topic may be, but they're willing to put themselves out there because they're passionate about it. Yet we have to hear again from the silent majority that only speaks to the mayor, apparently. I don't know. I'd like to know where they're coming from, personally. It's definitely interesting. It seems to happen every time something doesn't go his way, a silent majority sneaks up and shows up, and whether it was in reference to the Police Reform Committee or the Equity and Inclusion Committee, again, because we were challenging processes in the city and got told that we don't follow policies in the city anyway, so what's the point? So if that's coming from the mayor, that we don't follow the policies that the city has in place to review and to address various issues, do we really think that that's not an issue with our police department? I mean, logic dictates otherwise, unless you're really that naive. So with that being said, the lack of integrity from the very top individual of the city tends to send some red flags. And so here we have the Civilian Review Board, and again it becomes this, oh, it's us versus them. It's really not. It's transparency for both sides of the fence. It's an opportunity for both sides of the fence to conversate, communicate, to be able to put all their cards on the table. It protects officers from the frivolous issues and complaints, as well as the civilians, and gives them just a peace of mind that, hey, you know what, somebody's actually listening to us, instead of the individual that says he doesn't follow the policies anyway. You know, the fact that we have an individual that runs our city that can openly say that and feel that he can say that with absolutely no regard and no consequence at all lets us know how this city gets run. And if you think otherwise, it's extremely unfortunate. But when you have leadership that's willing to say, I'm not going to challenge him because then my agenda won't get pushed forward, well, then there's not much you can do either. So here we had a couple weeks ago, our Common Council decides to vote unanimously on this, again, unanimously, and now we're here wondering what's going to happen. It really shouldn't happen. Whether the mayor threw his temper tantrum or not, the vote should stay the same. And if it doesn't, that's a telltale sign. And I know some of you aren't going to be here after this meeting, so really, what's up to you? Well, hopefully you care enough about the city to actually understand that it affects you and it affects the people that you have so openly stated that you serve. Although, have you served the city or have you served yourself? Because we know what you've done, Mayor. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Good evening. I wrote up something to say tonight, but I ain't gonna say it. I'll email it to you guys. I just, as a citizen, I feel like, you know, it don't matter what we say, really. Right? Like, you have Mr. Robinson up here, who's been attacked for how long now? And I don't know what you guys thought, but like, I'm not gonna settle for that. Mr. Marshall, you wanted to know why we needed a civilian review board? For the fact of one of your 911 operators reaching out to me, out of all people, sending me an email. Mr. Mayor, you know about it. We discussed this. Police chief, you know what I'm talking about. We discussed this. You do. You do. I sent the... Excuse me. Mr. J.R., aren't you our next alderman, correct? You know about what I'm talking about. The 911 operator reaches out to me about what injustices are going on with the police. That's why we need a civilian review board. So the 911 operator doesn't have to reach out to me, a lonely citizen who can't do anything, but come here and ask you guys to do your job. That's why we need a civilian review board. I'll get the emails to you guys. You guys know what happened at the old folks' house and the old folks' home and what was going on there, and you guys didn't want to investigate, and then you guys get rid of the lady and badger her until she's gone, and she sues only Ann. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Now, since we got that out of the way, how about, Mayor, instead of vetoing what the people want, right, how about you do something real for the taxpayers? When's Allegheny gonna pay our water bill? How long do they get to get our shit for free? You don't want to do anything about that, huh? You just stay quiet. Where's the unanimous people about that? They scared to show up about their own bill? Well, down there in Allegheny, they laughing at us because of you. Letting them get away with everything. Didn't want to come up here and veto something the people do. Every time the people do something, you try to go behind us. If you don't like what the people doing, get out. Make it easier. Alderman, please. I'm not going to say anything about the Civilian Review Board because you guys already said it in October. If you guys don't believe what you said, then it'll get voted differently. If you believe what you said, we ain't got nothing to worry about. Mr. Crawford, you are my alderman. I'm the loudest citizen in Olean. If you can't represent me and my family, don't ask me for my vote no more. Ask the mayor who you always stand with. I'm tired of this. I'm doing everything that I can as a citizen. Do I need to run? Is that what I need to do? That's what I tell people to do. If they're not happy with what's going on, run. If I need to run, tell me, please. I'm not scared. We all know that. Do your guys' job as a city council, please. Stop letting this man dictate everything. I know you guys think that you don't have no power, but you're the city council. If you guys don't have no power, why do we have to vote for a city council? I'm done. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Selena Clemens. I'm Jason's daughter. I just wanted to kind of echo what a lot of my fellow citizens have also said. This isn't an us versus them situation. That's the driver of, you know, what I said last time. But another thing that I definitely do want to emphasize and kind of leave you with is that this is the second time that you've heard my dad's story. Now, I don't know if the Civilian Review Board would have helped my dad when this happened and occurred. And I do also know that my dad is lucky to have met with the mayor this morning. I'm also well aware that a lot of dads that this has happened to don't get the opportunity to meet with you. And I know that when this passes, if this will be a success, if this stops any daughter from having to get up here and say in front of your group that my dad was hate crimed, and plead for your group to take it seriously and to at least do something about it. So, in the future, when this passes, that's all we're all really asking, a majority of us. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? At this time, I'll call public comment, please. Finance and bills.
The auditor has processed bills and claims against the city of Olean as per list submitted to each alderman and recommends payment thereof. Whereas the auditor has presented to the common council bills and claims against the city of Olean totaling $5,052,138.85 for the budget and recommends payment thereof. Now therefore be it resolved that the same be and are hereby audited and allowed, and the auditor is hereby authorized and directed to draw warrants for the payment thereof at the amounts set opposite each respective claim.
Okay, we talked about this. We've all received our finance and bills. Any questions? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Witt?
Yes.
Alderman Panis?
Yes.
Alderman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Alderwoman McCall?
Yes.
Alderman Robinson?
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia?
Yes.
And President Crawford.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, so on to resolutions.
Local law number 02-2022, PL number 89-22, by Alderman Robinson, seconded by Alderman Panis, to enact a local law establishing a civilian review board.
Okay, so just to understand the formalities here, I'm going to call on our city attorney for a moment. Is this just a yes or no vote? Essentially, this is to override the mayor's disapproval?
2/3.
It requires 2/3 to pass, but it's just a yay or nay vote, correct? Yeah. So yay would be to enact the local law, correct? Correct. Is that your understanding then? Yes. Okay. Okay, just wanted to clarify. So at this time, would any alderman like to make a statement? Alderman McCall.
So I just want to say I have great respect for our police department, and it saddens me to think that something that is meant to give the community residents a voice is looked at so negatively. So I went and I looked at a few things, and reading the former Albany Chief Police Brendan Cox said, a lot of things are out there misinformation. I think people just want accountability. They want transparency. They want to know what's happening. In looking at James Desmond, talking about the effectiveness of a city review board. He had been a police officer for 29 years. He said, "The benefit of police by increasing public understanding of police work, including the use of force, promoting community policing, improving the quality of internal investigations, vindicating officers and discouraging misconduct. People with complaints feel validated, regardless of the outcome, as long as they feel an independent entity listen to them carefully." He said, "Based on my research and survey data, I would recommend agencies impanel a citizen review board." In looking at Pamela Safer, captain of Sacramento Police, on the Police Chief magazine, she said, "Civilian review boards can be successful if properly implemented, and once in operation, they can build community trust with law enforcement. Cooperation will increase, people will more readily engage in contacting the police with information, and neighborhoods will be safer." And that was just a few. You know, I went through probably hundreds of articles over the past couple of weeks. And that really is it. It's not to vilify police, because I have seen our police do a wonderful job. We know that there's been some issues and some problems, and there needs to be Police Richardson to address those issues. This isn't anyone's going to come in and say, "Oh, this is what you need to do." That's not what it's meant to be. But I do believe that it gives us a chance to be proactive versus reactive. I can say that I had no one that was in disagreement with it, but I was contacted by several who are in agreement, some of which are here today. And I think we need to be mindful and careful to understand that the silent majority is the majority at times, right? And by majority, I think they're the minority opinion of people who are against it. It is really meant to open lines of communications for groups that have felt disenfranchised for years. And that's not to say that the police are doing anything wrong, but think about it yourself. When you have an opportunity to talk and feel heard, right? Whether you quote unquote get your way or not, I think all of us feel better. So kind of going back to, the statements, that people feel validated regardless of the outcome, right? It increases the understanding of police work. We all know in this moment, police work is really difficult. It is. And I appreciate all the work that our police force do. And I would encourage everybody to keep an open mind about that on all sides, because really it shouldn't be about sides. It should be about what's going to help Olean move forward and help our police department, help our residents. And so I would encourage us to keep that in mind as we go to a vote.
Anyone else? Alderman Anastasia.
Yeah, this is a subject that's been going on for the past couple of years. The city has listened to everyone's concerns. The city has hired Joe Bracchio, a labor attorney out of Buffalo. That cost the taxpayers, I don't have the exact amount, but probably cost the taxpayers thousands of dollars to create this law. So we took your concerns seriously. We listened to you. We tried to create a law that would benefit everybody. On October 25th, I voted for this because I assumed, you know what they say, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me? Well, I assumed because the governor, Cuomo, back at the time, created an executive order saying that all municipalities had to create a civilian review board. I assumed it was law that we had to do it. And on December 13th, when I asked the question, I was told that it was not a law. It was just a recommendation by the governor's office that a civilian review board should be created. So I too, over the last 2 weeks, have been receiving several calls, and I can only say that I received 1 or 2 that are in favor of the Civilian Review Board. The majority of the calls have been against it. So I guess my comment on this is we as aldermen are elected officials to represent certain geographic areas called wards in our cities. We know our wards, we know our areas. Instead of having a Civilian Review Board, why can't we have a Police Advisory Committee made up of 7 aldermen who we took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution of the New York State? So if somebody calls me with a complaint, I don't care if you're white, black, rich or poor, gay or straight, I take all complaints seriously and I deliver them to the city government to try to get your issues resolved. So, to me, instead of a Civilian Review Board, again, to reiterate, why can't the council next term in January create something, I don't care what you call it, Police Advisory Board or whatever you want to call it, made up of the 7 aldermen. We know our wards, we know our areas. If we get complaints, we can take the concerns up here and try to get them resolved. That's our job, to try to resolve issues in the city. So I don't see a problem with that. I give it a lot of thought. On October 25th, I did support it for reasons I mentioned, because I assumed it was a law that we had to do, but it's not. So I think by creating this review board is just passing the buck to 7 volunteers across the city that probably aren't going to give them their full heart, because they're just volunteers. They're not getting paid to be up here. They're not getting paid to investigate serious questions. So tonight, I'm going to be voting no, because I think it's our job to handle complaints. And that's what we're here for. I gave it a lot of thought, and it's ruined my Christmas holiday because it's made me a nervous wreck thinking, should I do this, should I do that? But in my heart, I think it's my job to represent my constituents. And if somebody in my ward, or even in somebody else's ward, calls me with a complaint, I will deliver your complaint up here at City Hall. I've done that for years. So that's my opinion on this issue.
Alderman Gonzalez?
So, respectfully, the reason that is a terrible idea is because the Common Council is a political body that is elected by and influenced by political factors, right? And the judgments that need to be laid out by a Civilian Review Board or a planning board or a zoning board need to be free from political influence, right? That's why we have a mayoral appointed candidate that's approved by the council that can go in and interpret, execute the law and review cases just like the planning board does, just like the zoning board does. So I think the notion that this should just be the common council that just becomes a Civilian Review Board is disastrously bad, respectfully. So my thoughts on that originally, though, one of the things in the notice of disapproval was that the police department should have the ability to make split-second decisions without the threat of being second-guessed by citizens. That's already happened, right? That happens everywhere in the country ever since Minneapolis or any of the horrific things that have happened, you know what I mean, in the however many years, decades, especially now in the age of social media. That happens now, right? A board like this protects the police department from, it's just like the body cameras, right? It protects them from that judgment, from, you know, what do I want to call it? The court of public opinion, right? Because there is an entity out there that would be reviewing them, that would be taking these complaints and working on that isn't from them, it's independent from the police department. I've got a whole bunch of notes here that have just been popping into my head, but the notion that we would change the name from a review board to a public advisor, it's all semantics, right? We've already moved the dials so many different ways on this over the last 2 years. You know, pared it down so that, you know, they can't, you know, make any, you know, recommendations for punishments or discipline or whatever. And it comes down to me, the way I see it is, it's either we don't have it, which is the only acceptable solution, or we do have it, right? They're only acceptable to the people that don't want it. There's no compromise in this equation. So I don't really see how that's an okay situation. To me, it's just like the body cams, right? We have the body cams, and people were against those initially, and oversight is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, and we should be, supporting this. I don't know. I'm very frustrated with this right now. So.
Anyone else?
John?
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify, my stance doesn't change. I don't believe anything's changed in the last 3-4 weeks, however, since we voted on this. We've discussed this for nearly 2 years, and what's on the table and been voted on is the compromise we discussed for that long amongst all of us. So, to me, that's why there's 7 of us. We've had the discussions, we've ironed it out, and we made that decision a month ago, and I stick to it. And I think that's what we need to do.
Alderman Witt?
Thank you. I apologize if I lose my voice. I have a cold. But when we voted on it the first time, my original vote was going to be no, for a lot of different reasons. But I think part of it was being the previous mayor. I can tell the public that there were people that came in and complained. There were several situations that police officer were disciplined, police officer was fired. It does happen. It's this whole thing about things being under the rug. Olean's not that big, folks. We all know each other. Do you know how many police officers I live by? Do you know how many neighbors have told me how safe they feel? And I know you probably think, well, she lives over on Main Street. I do. I've been an elected official for 18 years. And I can tell you, I've been beaten up by the best of them, let me tell you. But I think, and I've talked to people the last couple weeks, and I think the whole thing, it is us against them. And I think it's unfair. And I think, excuse me. It's ironic, this is my last meeting, but I can't leave. No, sorry. I can't leave having the people that put their lives on the line every day for us think that at least one of us doesn't see that. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. I want to go on record, first and foremost, to identify that I've always received nothing but the utmost professionalism and respect anytime I've dealt with our police department. I do appreciate wholeheartedly the work and the service they do for our community. I went back and I've reread the legislation again and again and again, and as someone who helped to draft it, working with Vernon and Jason over many, many months, I cannot find within that legislation the term where anything is punitive. All right. What I see is collaboration and compromise. I committed to this when I agreed to work on that draft legislation to try to find a compromise that would not hinder the ability of the police to do their job, but also to answer some of the concerns of our constituents. And I think Mr. Gavin Garvin, who spoke, he hit it right on the head with his first statement, and I have it down that I looked at this as a way to facilitate conversation between the public and the police, to get that conversation going. With that said, I fully support our police department, and I'm firmly committed to focus on ways to improve the issues they do have, including pay disparity, which I know is a huge one. We've all gotten the letters regarding recruitment and retention, and these are ongoing issues that we've got to address going forward. And I'm willing to work on those items with the greatest effort. And I also want to say, one thing that we do recognize when we create legislation is that legislation can always be improved, it can always be changed, it can always be updated. And those are the sorts of conversation that I would look for members of CRB in conjunction with the police department to make suggestions like that. So that's where I stand. Okay. Seeing nothing else, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Witt.
No.
Alderman Panis.
Yes.
Alderman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Alderwoman McCall.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia.
No.
President Crawford.
Yes.
5 ayes, 2 nays. Resolution passes. Resolution number 125-22, PL number 126-22 by Alderman Crawford, seconded by Alderman Panis, to repeal and replace the City of Olean Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Articles 1 and 2, to establish a local government code enforcement program.
Okay, we voted and talked about this previously. I did want to make a couple, there were just a couple of minor spelling corrections. Thanks to our city clerk here for catching those. So I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
So second.
Second by Alderman Gonzalez, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now within section 11, this is a long one, so. Within section 11, part D, section 5. Okay, under receipt, all right, upon receipt. So receipt is misspelled. I'd like to make a motion to correct that spelling. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Witt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And then section 13E1. Midway through the paragraph there, the word parking is missing an A. Such parking garage. So I'd like to make a motion to correct the spelling of parking. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Robinson. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Are these not done on Word?
That's all I thought.
Doesn't it like save it, like automatically, send an email, it automatically corrects it, I mean, you click the button.
No. Okay.
Roll.
Yep. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Witt.
Yeah.
Alderman Panis.
Yes.
Alderman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Alderwoman McCall.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia.
Yes.
And President Crawford.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Resolution number 126-22, PL number 127-22, out of committee by Alderman Witt and seconded by Alderwoman McCall. Resolution confirming the appointment of Matthew Swenson as acting city court judge.
Okay, we discussed this previously. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Witt.
Yes.
Alderman Panis.
Yes.
Alderman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Alderwoman McCall.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia.
Yes.
And President Crawford.
Yes.
Resolution passes unanimously. Resolution number 127-22, PL number 128-22, out of committee by Alderman Gonzalez, seconded by Alderman Witt. That Common Council hereby designates its intention to serve as lead agency for the proposed streetscape and gateway improvements to South Union Street between West State Street and Franchot Boulevard.
Okay, we discussed this previously. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Witt.
Yes.
Alderman Panis.
Yes.
Alderman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Alderwoman McCall.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia.
Yes.
And President Crawford.
Yes.
Resolution passes unanimously.
Okay, at this time, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So second.
Second by Alderman Gonzalez, all in favor?